Hi, welcome to the presentation, and I have just one question for you. Do you know this woman? I'll give you a hint. My name is Junabe Jones. The B stands for Beatrice, except I don't like Beatrice. I just like B, and that's all. You guessed it, this woman is Barbara Park. You may know Barbara Park as the author of the very famous Junabe Jones series. However, she has written other series such as Skinny Bones, The Geek Chronicles, and many other novels that were not series. Before we dive into that, let's learn a bit more about her early life. Barbara Park was born on April 21st, 1947 in Mount Holly, New Jersey. But don't let this picture of her and her brother reading fool you. As a kid, she had no interest in writing at all. In fact, for me, writing was more upsetting than finding out my mother was cooking liver and onions for dinner, says Barbara Park. In elementary school, she was quite the troublemaker and was often sent to the principal's office, just like Junabe. Growing up in New Jersey, she later went to Rancocas Valley Regional High School. She then attended Rider College for 2 years. After that, she went to the University of Alabama and graduated in 1969 with a teaching degree. Park was planning to teach political science and history, thinking she could make history funnier. However, after teaching a group of 7th graders, she quickly realized that teaching was not the job for her. So how did she get to writing? Well, she remembered in 12th grade she was voted the wittiest, so she decided to see if she could write funny books. Her first book was Operation Dump the Chump. This book follows the story of Oscar Winkle and his younger brother Robert. He's convinced that Slobbert is trying to ruin his life, and comes up with many ways to get back at him. This book was rejected 3 times before finally being accepted by Alfred A. Knopf, Inc. It won many awards. Bet those other publishers regretted rejecting her then. From then on, Park's career was booming. Skinny Bones, a book published alongside Operation Dump the Chump, was another hit. It won several awards over the years and is still enjoyed by readers today, as it follows the story of Alex Frankovich, who is the smallest kid on his baseball team. However, his big mouth gets him into a lot of trouble. What will happen next? Another award-winning story of hers is The Kid in the Red Jacket. This is a great book for middle grade readers. This book follows Howard Jeter. His parents are constantly moving around the country, and being the new kid is not easy. He wants a new friend, but the new girl, Molly, is very talkative. But hey, maybe that's better than no one, right? Barbara does not only write for school-age children, though. Her books are for all ages. For instance, she wrote this picture book, Ma, there's nothing to do here. A word from your baby in waiting. This is a hilarious story about a baby in the womb who's waiting to be born. Sometimes the baby's bored, but other times the baby is very happy, listening to the mom and other family members outside of the womb. They can't wait to come out and play. While humor has always been her thing, Barbara Park has also authored a few books about more serious topics. One of these books is Don't Make Me Smile. This book was also authored alongside Don't Dump the Chump and Skinny Bones, and covers the story of how Charlie manages his parents' divorce. It is a topic many wouldn't know how to discuss with their kids, but this piece of realistic fiction can be a great tool for parents and kids who have experienced the same thing. She goes on to continue the story with a sequel where Charlie's mom gets remarried, and everything changes when he gains a stepdad, a stepsister, and a stepbrother. That's a lot of steps for one kid. Once again, Park expertly narrates a tale that readers can relate to and learn how to cope with a difficult situation. In another story, inspired by an accident that happened to a child in Barbara's neighborhood, Barbara Park stepped up to the challenge of discussing death with children. Death can be unexpected and difficult to discuss with children. In Mick Harty Was Here, Phoebe has to navigate the feelings of grief and loss when she loses her younger brother. This is another book that can be helpful for young and old readers alike, who can relate to the feeling of someone being gone too soon. On a happier note, though, let's discuss the character Barbara Park is most known and loved for, Junie B. Jones. Junie B. Jones is one of my favorite books. I read the entire series, but the first Junie B. Jones book was published in 1992. She is actually based upon characters in Barbara's previous books, Molly Vera Thompson and Thomas Russo, from The Kid in the Red Jacket and My Mother Got Married and Other Disasters. Her full name is Juniper Beatrice Jones. On writing about Junie, she says, "I've never been sure whether Junie's fans love her in spite of her imperfections or because of them. But either way, she's gone out into the world and made more friends than I ever dreamed possible." The world was hooked on Junie Jones. She sold over 60 million copies in North America and was consistently a #1 New York Times bestseller. She often featured in the national outlets Time, Newsweek, USA Today, the New York Times, and Today. But how did Barbara feel about all this? Even though Barbara Park has won over 40 Children's Book Awards for both Junie B. Jones and her other books, she herself was never a fan of the spotlight. Her publicist Kathy Dunn shares a memory of a time when they went on a tour. She wanted to kind of sneak into the event and not draw attention to herself. However, when we got to the store and parked the car alarm started blaring before we even were able to get out. Her editor, Shana Corey, shares how Barbara felt about sales. "Anytime I suggested anything that seemed remotely salesy, she'd say, 'We don't want it to look like we're trying to sell books.'" Yes, Barbara knew that making money was important, but this wasn't what she cared about. What she really cared about was the kids. Barbara Park loved Q&A and answering kids' questions. She also did plenty of volunteering with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and dedicated books to children whose dying wish was to meet her. On writing children's books, Barbara Park said, "There are those who believe that the value of a children's book can be measured only in terms of the moral lessons it tries to impose or the perfect role models it offers. Personally, I happen to think that a book is of extraordinary value if it gives the reader nothing more than a smile or two. In fact, I happen to think that's huge." Unfortunately, Barbara Park later got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. But she turned this around to found Sisters in Survival with help from her husband, Richard Park. Sisters in Survival is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization. The mission of this foundation is to assist sisters never met who are being forced to settle for less than optimal care because they do not have the resources to pay. Donations are gathered and sent to ovarian cancer patients. This foundation is now run by Barbara's family, as she has passed on December 15, 2013. Thank you for joining me today. Here are all the references to the pictures and information found in this slide.